plaintiff, Shelton Portee, dated the defendant for 7 years, and they have a 14-year-old son together. Shelton claims a year ago he got custody of his son because the defendant moved around a lot, and his son had been to 13 schools in 14 years. However, Shelton claims child support was still taken out of his paychecks, so he's suing to get his money back. Defendant Keisha Davis says she's terrified to be around Shelton because when their son was 3 years old, Shelton assaulted her right in front of him. Keisha insists she was entitled to the child support payments until the judge signed off on the order, and therefore she doesn't owe Shelton for anything.
Start with you.
All right, me and the defendant, we dated for about 7 years, and in that time I realized that it just wasn't gonna work out. It's like oil and water, and it's just not gonna mix, you know. We broke up, and a week later she called me and said, hey, I'm pregnant, and you know, the child came.
You said it wasn't mine because it's been a week.
No, I know.
Let me hear from you, man. Give me some background here.
All right, so we were in a teenage romance for 7 years, as he said. Out of that, we have our now 14-year-old son. At this point, we're just, you know, I'm seriously terrified to be around him because when our son was 3 years old, he physically assaulted me. I was coming to pick him up from his mother's wedding, and I wanted to leave. And he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to get his piece spoken. He wouldn't let me leave. When I tried to get him to leave, he grabbed me, threw me up against the car, and then he swung me down onto the ground and started picking me up and throwing me. The whole time I'm just like, you know, terrified, saying, keep your neck still, else your head is gonna hit this concrete. This entire time, our 3-year-old son is in the backseat of the car, jumping up and down, begging his dad to leave his mother alone. I realized he wasn't going to do anything and let me go, even though he hears his child crying in the car. So I finally told him that if you don't let me go, you'll never see him again. He let me go. I ran off to call the police, but by the time the police got there, I was just ready to go. I was scared. We were in Houston. I wanted to get back to school in Abilene. So we left, and
That's
I filed.
where you all are from, Houston?
Yes, we're from Houston.
Yes.
Right.
So
Who's your congresswoman? Isn't it Sheila Jackson Lee?
Yes.
I haven't been in Houston for a
He
while.
knows. Your name here, Shelton. I'm going to talk to her. She just called me. Definitely going to mention you to her.
Well, Your Honor...
don't start that now. Yeah, too late, Doc. You the one say, yeah, that's my congresswoman.
Yes, sir. Well, in
Now, I'll
defense of...
tell her you had a presentable young man who obviously had a temper problem and made a grave mistake years ago. I hope it was only an isolated incident. That was a terrible incident, and he should have been punished, and you should have followed up with punishment.
Yes, I did attempt to file charges. It was, you know, not seen through, so
What
I
type of
just
work
protect
you do?
myself.
I am a assistant manager at a plastic packaging company.
Okay. Hope you understood that was something that should never happen again.
Yes, sir. It didn't happen. It didn't actually happen that way, Your Honor. She was asked to leave by the Humboldt Police Department because she showed up on the scene. The part that she left out was I'm talking to her with the car door open, and when she didn't want to hear what I had to say, she threw the car in reverse. I grabbed the door like I'm gonna really stop a car, but I pushed that door. She got upset and tried to wrestle me. I put her down, I grabbed her by the lapels of her jacket. She had on a trench coat. I put her down on the ground and I told her, you crazy. She said, you know what, you going to penitentiary. My family came outside to investigate because these police officers were paid security to be there for my mother's wedding. They politely put her in the car and said, you need to leave now before we put you in jail. We observed this gentleman in there having a good time. He wasn't bothering anybody, but just as soon as you showed up on the scene, this is what happened.
Thank God that you all are both here and you both look like productive folks. Why are you suing her for child support overpayment? And that's really why I'm giving him half of a break, because he has obviously paid you so much so that you owe him money. I hope you're not lying today.
No, sir.
Go ahead, all right.
April 1st, 2014, I was granted custody of my son. At the time, You know, we're talking about her being kind of transient. She was moving around. My son went to 13 different schools. In 14 years, he's only 14 years old. She's lived in Houston, Dallas, Amarillo, Abilene, McKinney. She's moved around a lot.
She must have about 5 degrees. She said she'd been in college, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you went to school in there, I believe.
Yes, sir.
How did we come to her owing you money, though?
Okay, Your Honor, my job, they didn't receive a court order from the original court to tell them when to stop. I have a paper here.
Paying your child support. Let's see it.
Yes, sir.
So you were paying through the state, obviously.
Yes, sir. I'm paying
or
through
the county,
the state.
which is the best way.
Yes, sir.
And I always advise men to do it that way because
Yes, sir.
that way the record will speak for itself. The only reason you wouldn't want to be on child support through the government if you're trying to cut some corners. And then that backfires on you because when she gets mad and takes you to court and says he hasn't paid his child support and I've been giving you money, I've been giving you money. No, you ain't gave me nothing. This the quote. We don't want the government in our business. You do want them in your business if there's some legal obligations there because one person can paint a different picture. You got your paperwork.
Yes, sir.
It is ordered that the obligation of support Sheldon Portee to Keisha Davis is terminated. So how does she continue getting money? They never received it? That's what you're saying?
My job never received a copy, a signed,
Did she have knowledge of the date it was to end?
Yes, sir.
She knew.
She was in court.
Okay, so not only did you pay all you owed and more, but you also care for the child now.
Yes, sir.
14-year-old.
Yes, sir.
Boy?
Yes, sir.
Good. The boy needs some fatherhood, and it's good to be around his natural father during his adolescence period. That's a good time to be there with you. So, ma'am, what do you say to this?
Okay, yes, true. We went to court on April 1st. The judge told him that his attorney that he needed to draw up the order. His attorney never drew up the order. We received a notice in the mail saying, if you do not give the judge an order by June 11th, everything is going to be dismissed, which is why I continued to get something up until June the 11th when it was ended. His attorney did not turn in the order to the judge until 9 a.m. when they were about to dismiss the case.
So you were hanging your hat and hoping and praying that the attorney would lose the paper? In the meantime, you're going to keep accepting money that you know was supposed to have ended April 1st? No, what did you say? Hope you don't make it by 9 a.m.? Isn't that what you said? Something about 9 a.m.? You say he had until 9 a.m.?
9 a.m. June the 11th, yes, sir.
So you were betting on that.
Well, not
He
because
make
of
it
money.
8:30? He made it at 8:30. What's your defense? You don't have a defense other than that?
No, that I thought I was going to get my son back if it was going to be dismissed. No, sir. Because that's what I was told, that if it wasn't turned in, that everything would be overturned.
You all fought for custody? Over custody?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you want him to be with his dad for at least the last 4 years of his youth?
Because Shelton and I, pretty much the impasse happened because we were on two different levels spiritually about how to raise Elijah. He feels that, as he says, he needs to know the streets. He needs all that Bible stuff is nonsense. And I need to teach my son streets, and that's what's going to make it. And
I believe you said the Bible was nonsense.
No.
Go ahead.
I would not lie to you. But so that's the reason.
You just put a little on it. I'm going to leave you alone. And he's probably saying, if he didn't say it correctly, he's probably believing, suggesting, and perhaps saying that my son is there with a woman all of his life. He needs some men in his life. Perhaps. I'm just trying to give you credit because you've been coming across all right to me.
Myself, I grew up in a single parent household. Mm-hmm. She did as well. My wife did as well. Well, what I'm trying to do is break that cycle. I'm tired of our young men, getting shot. Mm-hmm. Baltimore, New York. All of these things happening because these young men are misguided. I have an opportunity to do something for my son. I'm not responsible for everybody else. I'm not responsible for anybody else. But when you tell me that you want my son to be so naive because college will eat him up, high school will eat him up when he has all of these negative things going on in these supposedly positive situations. Hey man, try this. Hey man, try that. But if daddy, the number one, come through and tell him, hey man, let me tell you, this is what this will do to you. See, if you've never done it, how can you ever tell somebody don't do it? And not mean something. You just talking from what somebody else has said. Yeah. I have firsthand knowledge of what these things can do to you. I've turned my life around. Yes, I have. I've turned my life around. Yeah, okay. When we broke up, that left me with nothing. But you know what? I had to think at some point, I'm gonna have somebody out there with my last name that's representing me that needs to represent me well. Good. I don't want this young man ending up behind bars or in the grave. Yep. I don't want that. So yes, I will respect her because this is my son's mother. And in the past, maybe I did not respect her like I should have. But if I don't show her respect, he won't show her respect. And where does that lead us as far as how he respects women in his future?
And we need a lot more fathers like you, and you are absolutely right. These young men only will listen to people who live that life. That's why I'm able to have, thank God, so much influence over these young guys when I speak in prisons, when I speak in other places, street guys in particular in these urban, hardcore areas. When I go in and speak, they listen. And they say, we listen because you've been there and done that. So I'm glad that you recognize that your son does need that type of insight and oversight. You're gonna have to pay him the money back, ma'am. I know you thought you had your little extra money and you had a right to, and most people would do the same thing, but when they get caught, they gotta pay back. If the government gave you too much income tax money, I bet you'd have to pay that government back that income tax money. So this is going towards your son. $1,648 is your judgment. Good luck to you and your son. I'm going to tell Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee about you and tell her I feel great about the young man. I'm going to tell her your name and everything.
Tell her to give me a call.
Huh? I might do that too. Have a good day.
Just yesterday, we had a conversation. I suggested that we get counseling so that we can be there for him and we can get through all these issues that we have that have caused me hurt, pain, and fear, and for him to get out his anger and issues.
I'm open to counseling, but I also need the door to swing both ways. Not just for my issues, but for her issues as well, for the betterment of the child's situation.